The ticking time bomb. Everything seems to be on the verge of a major blow up. To the point, AI stocks are collapsing as we speak. Hedge funds are getting hit, and they are in a crisis mode. Okay, and we have to talk about the Bank of Japan because the meeting is going to be held tomorrow. So all this, guys, is outside the crypto sphere. Okay, with all these narratives, but in the end, all markets are tied together, right? So we have to be cautious about these things and let's investigate. It does seem scary, but let's see how things pan out. From Machiguru, Justin, Japan sells US dollars and buys yen in massive currency intervention after yen falls to 40-year low. And here it is, guys. This is the Japanese yen against the US dollar. It exploded 3-ish%. Ridiculous, right? This seems to be a move by Bank of Japan because they're trying to strengthen their currency. Okay, because it has been collapsing. All right, and this is major because this has impacted Bitcoin several times before. Okay, and people are speculating, okay, since now Japan is trying to intervene, okay, manipulate their currency to go higher, does that mean the carry trade is going to unwind? Right? Tomorrow is the Bank of Japan interest rate decision, guys, and it happens overnight tonight. Okay, 3 a.m. Previous was 1%, consensus is 1%, forecast is 1%. So the market is agreeing, okay, Bank of Japan is going to make the rates stay stable. Okay, neither hike them nor cut. Okay, if you're bullish, you want this to be to be this way. Why? Because every time Bank of Japan, look at the comparison. Okay, so the Japanese yen is this top chart, and then Bitcoin is the bottom chart. I have it all laid out. The first time Bank of Japan raised rates in 17 years was right there. Okay, what happened to Bitcoin? It dumped. Okay, then Bank of Japan raised rates to 25 basis points right here. Look what that did to the yen. Exploded, right? Bitcoin collapsed. Okay, Bank of Japan then raised rates to 50 basis points right there. Look what Bitcoin did. Dumped heavy, right? Look at the yen there. Rapidly pumped, right? Then Bank of Japan raised rates to 0.75 basis points right there, guys. Bitcoin did actually pump in the beginning, and then it collapsed, right? Because of the yen carry trade unwinding. Okay, the yen didn't do too much there, but it still made Bitcoin dump. Then recently, Bank of Japan raised rates to 1%. Bitcoin had another fall. Okay, it didn't even impact the currency as much. All right. So that's why it's important, guys. Every time the Bank of Japan raised rates, Bitcoin at the end, no matter if it was short or medium term, dumped. Okay, if you're bearish, well, you want the Bank of Japan to raise interest rates tonight, okay, which will impact Bitcoin. But for now, it is kind of interesting to see the yen already moving higher, right? What could that tell us? Bull Theory says tomorrow's Bank of Japan decision could wipe out billions from global markets. Here's why. The Fed rate sits at 3-ish%, and Bank of Japan sits at just 1%. That gap is why the yen carry trade exists in the first place. Borrow cheap yen, buy higher yielding dollar assets. Morgan Stanley estimates roughly $500 billion in yen funded carry positions are still outstanding, right? Japan's unemployment data comes out tomorrow as well. I think it came out at 2.5%. If it comes in as expected or higher, Bank of Japan has less reason to surprise anyone, right? So it doesn't seem like the Bank of Japan is going to raise rates, right? That's fantastic, right? Because again, they're just going to kick the can down the road, but we want the markets to pump, right? No matter what, guys, no matter the outcome, it's all screwed, right? The whole economy is screwed, right? At some point, it is going to unwind, and it's going to be terrifying, but maybe not just yet. We see here from the real Remy, well, what if The Bank of Japan is able to act, however, they are unwilling to do so. They don't want to ruin Trump's midterms. It could be it. Because Besson once said US and Japan will have a golden age. You guys see the partnership? Right? And you know Trump is Trump, guys, if you didn't know about Trump, he's a bullish maxi. If because he's all in on the markets. Right? He's a businessman. And Trump doesn't want anyone to throw a wrench in his plans. His plans, by the way, Trump plans are what? To maximize returns for the markets, right? To parabolically have a blow off top before the collapse. If Bank of Japan were to ruin his plans, he wouldn't like that. So maybe they have a secret deal going on the background, and they're going to just keep kicking the can down the road until one day it can't handle it any longer. That's what I think. Here's the Japan 10-year yield, guys, exploding. Remember what Gregory Mannarino told us. If this thing explodes heavily, right, no matter which yields, guys, something is broken. Their economy definitely is, okay? But it doesn't seem like the markets care about anything that's happening. Here's the South Korean market surge plus 15% today. Here's our stock market, $1 trillion added to the US stock market at open. Okay? This is because the PCE inflation had its first monthly decline in 6 years. Right? What this is telling me is possibly the yen is going to just come back and it's just going to dump back lower. Right? The markets aren't really sniffing out some type of black swan imminent. Right? If it was, certain stocks would be dumping. Right? In fact, stocks are holding up steady and pumping. Right? So I wouldn't be too worried about the Bank of Japan unless obviously they hike rates. That's going to be disastrous tonight, but we'll see. Though it is interesting why the yen is climbing, right? Because they intervened, but still. Just keep an eye out on Japan, right? And let's see what happens there. But now let's talk about this AI situation that has taken the market by storm. Okay, now this is where things become interesting. By the way, what we are witnessing is, I believe, the wall of worry. Okay, we're climbing the wall of worry. You see all these events that are happening, especially with Iran as well. It doesn't seem to be impacting our markets at all. Right? Look at where XRP is. Look at where Bitcoin is climbing steadily higher. Why? Because I think it's one of those times where the markets are going to decouple from any bad news, such as this one. This is the worst one that just hit the markets today, but the markets didn't even care, which is crazy. Situational awareness, the decade ahead. So, I have to first give context on what happened here, because this is diabolical. Leopold Aschenbrenner, June 2024. So this person wrote out a thesis on what he believes the future outlook will be, right? And over here he talked about AI. He says the AGI race has begun, okay? Artificial general intelligence. We are building machines that can think and reason. By 2025 and 2026, these machines will outpace many college graduates. By the end of the decade, they'll be smarter than you and I. We'll have super intelligence, in the true sense of the word. Along the way, national security forces not seen in a half a century will be unleashed. And before long, the project will be on. If we are lucky, we'll be in an all-out race with the CCP. If we are unlucky, an all-out war. Okay? So this person has been extremely bullish on AI, right? To the point, he's like, guys, we gotta hurry and start a hedge fund, okay, to bet on all these AI stocks, right? So we're not left behind, okay? Because this is a new age. So this person, guys, wrote out his thesis on AI, right? And it went into AI circles. Everyone read about this. Everyone heard his words. So what happened then is he started his own hedge fund, right? An AI hedge fund, guys, to buy all these AI stocks. So Then what happened was he was forced to unwind all public stock positions after steep losses. This just happened now. All right. So the battered hedge fund founded by former OpenAI researcher is unwinding many of his trades after big losses on AI stocks, and a bad bet against software stocks left it scrambling to raise cash, according to people familiar with the matter. Right? Then what happened was Ken Griffin's Citadel hedge fund reached a deal to buy the fund's publicly traded assets. That's crazy. So here are some AI stocks, right? Either pertaining to the infrastructure, right? Cloud storage, software, right? So, but this is all relating to AI stocks. This stock, Nebius, guys, or Nebius, dumped. You know how much? Minus 51%, and we're talking about in the span of like a month. Minus 50%, down 50%. What? Look at this one. This stock, SanDisk, dumped minus 60% in the matter of, again, a month or so. Imagine if that happened to our cryptos. That would be diabolical, wouldn't it? But it happened to these AI stocks. This one as well. This one was collapsing, guys. Right, minus 50%. So all these stocks, okay, all these stocks that are related to AI have been collapsing. Okay, and this hedge fund here is in a full blown panic mode, which is odd, right? Which is odd because look what happened. How come the markets aren't dumping heavily? Right, that's strange. Any other time, the markets would have been probably collapsing. Right, this is what you call the AI bubble, as people have mentioned. Right, so he got liquidated yesterday, guys. Right, their hedge fund. And look at this. The market, SanDisk, starts pumping today. All these stocks are pumping back up again. Up plus 30% or so. Right, and you know who bought their stocks? Citadel. This person right there. They were publishing or pushing surprise rate hike fears just days before the AI trade collapse and forced 4x levered situational awareness to unload its book near the lows. Right? Then Citadel reportedly bought most of those assets at significantly lower prices, knowing that if sentiment deteriorated enough, the fund could be forced to sell, which makes the entire sequence look absolutely ruthless. Right? Which tells me something. This fund pretty much blows up, right, or is in full crisis mode, and they got liquidated. They had to sell. Who bought it? Citadel, at extremely lower prices, cheaper prices, and somehow the stocks started pumping up again today. Right? Which is weird, which tells me the pump isn't done and over yet. It's not. This bubble will keep bubbling until it can't no more. And who knows how long that will take. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years, nobody knows. But it is a game of musical chairs. Okay, you know what Citadel said? Listen to this.
Was behind your desk that said if we're all going to eat, someone has to sell. Because when I was like 20 years old,
if we're all going to eat, someone has to sell. You want to buy their blood, not the other way around. This isn't financial advice. Be prepared because the markets are getting very volatile. Let's see what happens next. What do we say, Sophie's Amazing? See ya.